going crazy?
No, it's that crap on the tanks and goddamn chemicals. It's all over everything.
Stupid asshole!
Watch your tongue, boy, if you like this job.
Like this job?
Think!
We gotta call the cops!
No, you don't want to call the cops. You know what the cops will do to this company?
Who cares about the company?
Well, think of our reputation.
Your reputation. Think! What about the number on the side of the tank? The one that said to call in case of an emergency.
No, that's the army. You know what, the goddamn army around this place? Think!
What are we gonna do?
What are we gonna do? We're gonna call the boss.
Hello, my darlings, and welcome to DianeXMarieX Girls Gone Mild podcast, episode 6, Pick Up Sticks. I just want to publicly apologize. Well, not publicly. I apologize for not advertising this episode in the past couple days. I've been busy with work, and I had an audition and everything. But, you know, for a Thursday night, not bad. But we will go back to Wednesdays nights starting next week. Hey, it's a special Thursday episode. Yay! But before we also begin this episode, I want to publicly apologize to the attendants that have been staying across the theater at Rust Belt Theater Company. Even though technically we shouldn't be apologizing, but I am, because for those of you who don't know, the building that the Rust Belt Theater Company has their theater in is owned by, I believe, a married couple, and they also have like apartments and rooms inside that building. Across the room from the theater, they have been doing an Airbnb for God knows how long. I think they probably started doing that a while back, probably even before I started working with the Rust Belt Theater Company. Basically, the reason why I'm mentioning this because the tenant who stayed this past weekend. Sorry. I'm trying to wake up a little bit because I haven't been sleeping that much lately. Anyways, the tenant who was sleeping across from the theater this past weekend, which we will talk about Livind Dead the second weekend in a little bit, didn't realize that there was a show going on. And I don't think the owners told him that a show was going on. I think probably maybe an hour, 45 minutes into the show, he comes out of his room and sees us, some of us getting dressed, some of us waiting. He saw me in a corset and in my makeup. Yeah. And asked us what's going on. We told him we were at the theater. He was asking us how long it was going to be, how loud you guys are going to be, because he has an interview in the morning or something like that. He had to wake up earlier in the morning in order to get to it. Which I felt bad for that. I felt bad for... obviously we can't really stop the show because of him. That's because this whole situation is not our fault. But the owners should have let the people who are staying there know that, hey, this weekend there's a group of people who are performing a show. So if you still want to stay here, just letting you know that it's probably going to get loud a couple times. You probably hear some singing and everything. I don't know. The owners failed to mention that. But it's also funny because there were two girls who also stayed in that room the first weekend we had Livind Dead. They didn't seem to mind it that much, but they kind of knew there was some. They were a little off. They found it weird. So we wanted to see if they wrote a bad review. And sure enough, they did. It wasn't like that bad. They just basically said that you would think for an Airbnb that is basically also letting a theater perform here as well, they will let the tenants know that that's going on. Yeah. And that's just wow. So, anyways, I know like the theater and the actors and Robert Joki don't owe apologies, but I do want to apologize because like backstage we were trying to keep it as quiet as possible, but when we're on stage we cannot do that. So yeah. Yeah. All right. I don't want to spend too much time on this subject because we already talked about Halloween Kills in my review and my thoughts last week. If you have not seen it, you should go see it. I will share the link in the video, but also in the description as well if you want to listen to that. But the reason why I'm talking about it again, and I might be talking about it next week because there's a special friend of mine who would like to put her input into the movie as well. But we'll see how that goes. Anyways, the reason why I'm bringing Halloween Kills up again is because I found out that apparently there's a petition going on for the movie. Yes, a petition for Halloween Kills. And that petition is to basically remove the scene, one of the beginning scenes of the movie. And this is not really technically a spoiler. It's just basically, well, let me say this first. If you still have not seen the movie yet, maybe it's a good idea that you should leave this podcast right now and then come back when you see it. But if you have, then you're more welcome to stay and listen. Basically, there's a petition going on that a lot of people would like for them to remove the scene in the beginning of the movie where Michael comes out of the fire and starts killing all the firefighters. The reason for that is because it was too gruesome and offensive, apparently. Now, I have tried to find this petition. The only reason I found out about this petition is because there was a lot of videos on TikTok sharing and showing the petition. I have been trying to find it. I cannot. So either it was fake news or it is real, but they took it down completely because it was stupid. I don't understand. Because throughout the whole franchise of Michael Myers, he has done worse things than kill firefighters. He has killed doctors. He has killed nurses. If you've seen the movie, he snapped a kid's neck. I think someone even said like one of the movies he stabbed a baby. I don't remember that. But he has done more gruesome ways of killing people throughout the whole franchise. But killing a bunch of firefighters, that's where they draw the line. It's a movie. I don't understand it. Like, if this was like made in the 80s, they would have not had a problem with it at all. But now they do have a problem with it because why? Our world is too sensitive. We can't not make a joke unless it's appropriate. It's just like, wow, okay. But I just thought it was stupid. That scene was not even bad. It was cool. I will say that. It was nice to see him rise from the fire and start killing every single firefighter. He's a serial killer. What, you think he's just gonna walk by and let them? Even if Michael Myers did not want to kill the firefighters, do you really think the firefighters are gonna let him go unharmed? He's freaking Michael Myers. They're gonna try to kill him. So if that did happen, then that would have been the end of the movie right there. I don't know. I just thought it was really stupid that people are making a petition to remove that scene or whatever. That's ridiculous. But yeah, but like I said, we might be talking about Halloween Kills again next week because there are some people who told me they want to put their input into this, and I told them I would be more happy to do that. So yeah. All right, so let's move on to some positivity. Diane Marie had her first theater audition this past Tuesday for Rust Belt Theater Company's How the Drag Queen Stole Christmas. And definitely, it's going to be a good experience for her. For those of you who have known, Diane did get casted in the show. I believe she is playing Farrah Fezziwig, and that's going to be soothing. Well, I mean, it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a good experience for her. I feel like I said before in the past, that she's probably going to take over my theater experience. And it's, she's already becoming a TikTok star, which, by the way, thank you for 1,000 followers on TikTok. I never hit 1,000 followers on anything, so that's a really huge deal to me. Some people will find it not that big. They'll be like, oh, there's a million people who have 10,000 followers or whatever. It's like, it's a huge deal to me because that just shows me that Diane Marie is becoming a very popular person and she's doing her job right. But she's very excited to do How the Drag Queen Stole Christmas. She's very excited to do this for her own entertainment, but also for her fans' entertainment as well. Wow, it's just wow. It's just that she is so happy that she can still pursue her dreams and still put smiles on your faces. And I always say thank you to Robert Joki because he's one of the reasons why Diane Marie was possible. And she's very excited. I keep saying she's very excited. See, there's not really much to talk about the audition because the audition went pretty well. She sang a Christmas song. I believe the song is It's Beginning to Look a Lot Like Christmas, but she sang the best version of it, the version from Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. And it was good to see some people, old faces. It's gonna be a blast. It's definitely gonna be a blast. I'm sorry if I'm not talking so much about this because there's really not much to talk about. I just wanted to share her first audition experience. But yeah, here we go. Oh, and Diane is excited to be performing alongside Star O'Hara once again. It's just only this time it's in a musical. And also, shout out to my good friend Sarah, who auditioned with Diane this past Tuesday night, singing one of my favorite songs of all time, A Million Dreams from The Greatest Showman. She's got a lot of heart. She's very talented. She's also going to be in the show, so check her out as well. All right, so we're going to talk about the second weekend of Livind Dead. But before we do, if you still have not seen the show yet, this weekend is your last chance. You have 3 more chances to go see it. This Friday, at the 29th, this Saturday, the 30th, and the midnight show on the 30th as well. We both of them will be at 8 p.m., and obviously the special midnight show on Saturday. If you'd like to make your reservations, you can call the number on the picture. The address is also on the picture, but I will also share it on the description as well. If you have not seen Livind Dead, if you don't know what's about, it's basically a parody of Night of the Living Dead, the 1968 version, or 1990s, whatever you want to call it. It's a parody, but it's also a musical. It's a lot of fun. You should go see it, because this is going to be my last one as Martin Daniels. Yeah, and the tears will come in when it's finally over. Yeah. Try not to think about it right now. I don't want to cry. It has a great cast. Like I said, Robert Joki is a great director. This past weekend, everyone really loved it, and I thought this weekend was the best than the first weekend. But I thought Friday's audience was a lot better. Even though we didn't have a lot of people show up on Friday, they were really engaging. Not saying that Saturday's audience wasn't engaging, but Friday's was pretty awesome. It's just amazing to see people get the jokes, laughing at bits, just having fun with it. My good friend Selena Phillips, who I mentioned on this podcast before, I believe on episode 4, she came and saw it. She has come down to visit everybody from Pittsburgh. She's probably going to be here towards the end of the month until she goes back to school, I think. It was good seeing her. It was nice catching up with her, and she had a great time. And of course, I chose her to fuck around with when it came to my number. No, I did not sexually assault her. No, I did not do anything sexual to her. I just basically went up to her and had fun, was sitting in the front row while she was sitting in the second row, and just was messing with her a little bit and having fun. She seemed to enjoy herself. I'm glad she did. It's amazing. There were some bloopers, but I still thought it worked in the show. Saturday was pretty awesome. A lot of people came to see the show, and they were really engaging as well. And of course, I didn't mess with anybody that Saturday night. I just went down the aisle, just looked at everybody, and then just did my thing. Well, it's like I didn't know anybody in the audience, so that's why. Whew, but I will mention this. You see, one of our cast members, she was in the ensemble. She wasn't here this past weekend, so I had to do her part. There's a scene while the girls are singing. One part that a zombie or a person comes out with a shower curtain and a zombie's chasing her. Now, she wasn't here this past weekend, so I had to do it. And I was completely fine with it since I did it last year. The drag continues. Last year I did different. This year was a whole different story. But I still had fun with it. I'm like, okay, this is nice, nice new thing that I'm doing right now. But because of that, I was on borrowed time to get ready for the next one. Well, because I had to leave my makeup on for it, but I had to get it washed. I had to wash it out in order to do the next one, the next song. But it's like I had to make a choice: either get the makeup off or get dressed. And what I mean by that is, I usually wear pants because I'm dressing up as the Pope in the next scene, and I usually wear pants for it. But knowing me, I'm not going to have time for that, because, yeah, in the audience perspective, the show goes on forever. But in an actor's perspective, when you're doing a show like this, time goes by fast. So I chose not to wear my pants. So, needless to say, people are seeing my tights, my stockings, my whatever you call them. So yeah. But at least I got my blood on. And my Pope outfit, that's all that matters. But unfortunately, oh my god. Unfortunately, on Saturday night, while we were doing the next number in my Pope outfit, my tights ripped. And I heard the rip. And that's just great. I mean, I have backup tights for this weekend, but I heard them rip, and I'm like, great. So, if you've seen the show and you saw me like smile or crack up a bit, like that's why. Because I just ripped my tights on stage, and good thing nobody saw that. Good thing I was wearing a robe too. Holy shit, man. Oh. But other than that, like everyone seemed to enjoy it. Everyone really loved it. It was probably the best weekend we have. I only say that now. Maybe this weekend, the final weekend, will be the best. We don't know. We don't know. And as far as the midnight show is concerned, I don't know if I'm gonna switch it up a bit. I don't know if I'm gonna do something different. If I am, I need to think of something now, or else I'm gonna look like a jackass. Well, I won't look like a jackass, but I will probably be the only actor who didn't change some stuff differently for the midnight show. Yeah, I remember my good friend Eric, who did Living Dead with me 2 years ago when I first did it. He just played the graveyard ghoul and just a zombie as well. The guy had the balls to dress up as Donald Trump for the midnight show, sing like Donald Trump, and pass out burgers. I forgot where the burgers were from. It was either McDonald's or Burger King. One of the two. But holy shit, it was so funny. I wish he could have done the show again, but I'm sure he has his reasons why he's not doing it. But God, that was probably like the best part of the midnight show that year. But now I'm like thinking, what do the cast have in mind? What are they going to do for the midnight show? Who's going to do what? Obviously, we're going to still do it like as normal, but there are going to be some bits where it's like, okay, they're doing something different because it's the midnight show. They're doing this, they're doing that. Some of us just can't help it. We like to change it up just to get a laugh or just to make it look stupid. But like I said, this past Friday night, the attendant who stayed across from us, I don't think he's ever going to come back. I don't blame him. We were being too loud, and I hope maybe he'll write a bad review. I don't know. If he does, we gotta look it up and see. And maybe I could talk about it in the next podcast, next Wednesday. But yeah, you should come see Living Dead. It's gonna be my last one as Martin Daniels, and it's a great cast. It's gonna be a lot of fun. You'll see a lot of funny shit, and yeah, and that's just how the cookie crumbles. All right, so I thought this would be a special treat because it is Halloween season, even though it kind of doesn't feel like it to me. I don't know why. But can you believe that we are just 3 days away from Halloween? And I don't even know if I'm going to dress up because it just depends if I'm working that day. I won't find that out until tomorrow. Yes, that's how my schedule works. I only get my schedule weekly. Yeah, and it just depends on if they need me. on certain days. But I do work there full time. 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 I'm going to keep saying that. I do work there full time. But anyways, you guys loved my review on Halloween Kills, so I thought I would do something like this again. Only this time, this is not a new movie. This hasn't been released in like this is not like a new release or anything like that. This is like an old time 80s horror film that I personally is my favorite horror movie of all time. And I'm a zombie fanatic, and this I wanted to review one of the greatest horror movies, in my opinion, of all time. If you have not seen The Return of the Living Dead, you need to go see it. It was released in 1985, I believe. It has a great story. It's a great cast. I believe everyone who was a part of this film, behind the scenes and on scene, was phenomenal. I was just watching the documentary of how this movie was created, and it's just spectacular. How they did this was phenomenal. I believe I saw the first time I saw this movie was when I was still living in California. I believe I was 11 or 12 when I first saw this. It scared the crap out of me. It did. But it was like, there was just one night that I could not sleep. So I was just flipping through the channels when I had cable. I don't have cable now because I just rely on my Xbox. But I was just flipping through the channels, and then I think the movie was like maybe 15 minutes in. So like nothing happened major. So I was like at the scene where the gang was about to meet Freddy at his job. So that's where I started at. But I watched the whole thing and I'm like, oh my God. Because I felt like, obviously they got the inspiration from Night of the Living Dead. This is why I had to talk about this movie, because it's got an inspiration from Night of the Living Dead. But they took that concept and made it their own. Because if you have seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. If you have not, like I said, you gotta go see it. Definitely a great zombie movie. But and the thing is, they also mentioned Night of the Living Dead in this movie. And it's funny because they said like that movie was based on a true case. But they reword this whole story about what actually happened that night or that year. It's funny. I loved how they did that. Basically, there are two workers, Frank and Freddy. Freddy is the young kid who just got the job. Frank is the dedicated employee who's been there the whole time. And I thought those two guys were great casted. I can't remember the actors' names, but they were a great duo. Whether it was comedy or playing it serious, they were great together. But Frank is the one who's telling the story that Night of the Living Dead was based on true case. That basically what actually happened that night, telling Freddy the whole story, and basically saying that the army was working on a project that made these things, and they ended up shipping those bodies to the factory or the warehouse that they work at. So Frank shows Freddy the tanks. And what happens is it starts leaking gas, which causes them to knock out, but also make things in the building come to life. They had like a dead body in one of the freezers. It starts coming to life. The half dogs, those were coming to life. Just like everything that was non-living is now living again. Meanwhile, Freddy's friends and his girlfriend are waiting for him to get off work, but they didn't want to just sit in the car waiting. They wanted to do something fun. So they ended up going to an old cemetery that was locked up, and they unlock it, and they just party there for a while until Freddy got off. Maybe a couple hours go by, Freddy and Frank wake up, find out that the body in the tank is gone. Probably they think it dissolved or something like that. So they close it back up. They go back upstairs, realizing not only does it smell, but everything is alive. And they're losing their minds. They realize the dead body in the freezer is alive and trying to get out, but they lock him up. But also, probably one of the funniest scenes in the entire movie, Frank is freaking out. Freddy is calling him an asshole. Basically, I just did that audio at the beginning of this podcast. So you probably would know exactly what I'm talking about. So what do? They end up calling the boss. They end up calling Bert, who owns the warehouse. So Bert comes over. Basically, is pissed off that Frank would even open the damn thing. So they're figuring out how to get rid of the body, how to kill it. They come up with a solution, like, in the movie Night of the Living Dead, the only way to kill them is to shoot them in the head or basically kill the brain. So they come up with a plan. They let the body out. The body chases Bert. They were able to stab it in the head with an axe or a pickaxe, whatever it's called, realizing it's not dying. It's screaming, but it's not dying. Next thing you know, Bert grabs a bone saw, and starts cutting the body's head off. I just realized I'm basically I'm telling you the whole movie in general. Holy crap. That's gotta be a first for me. But yeah, he starts cutting the head off with a bone saw. The body's still alive. So at that point, when I first was watching this, I realized, holy shit, you cannot kill them. That's like a cool idea, an original idea that they came up with. Because that was the main point of any zombie movie. The only way to kill them is if you shoot them in the head or decapitate them. But they were not dying in this movie. And I thought that was really, really cool. So they're trying to figure out other ways to kill it, realizing that Bert knows somebody who works at the cemetery. A guy named Ernie, who has a crematorium, and they figured maybe they could burn the body instead. But how are they going to get it over there? How are they going to explain to Ernie of what actually happened? That's going to be a huge story. So basically, while Bert, Frank, and Freddy are figuring out how to get the body over there, and they actually do end up getting the body over to the cemetery, Freddy's friends are still partying at the gravestones at the cemetery. Freddy's girlfriend, Tina, I believe that's her character's name. Tina realizes Freddy is going to get off in a few minutes, so she ends up going to the warehouse while this is happening. But during the time, Bert, Frank, and Freddy end up meeting up with Ernie, trying to explain why they need to burn these bags they just brought over. Now, mind you, in those bags are individual parts of the body they just chopped up. So the only way to convince Ernie of what's actually happening is if they actually show him what they did. And they did. And not only is Ernie convinced, but he looked at Bert and basically called him a dumbass for even chopping up the body in the first place. So they ended up burning the body completely to ashes. But it's not over yet. That smoke from the body goes up to the sky and makes it, and basically the smoke makes it rain. It starts raining because of that. Um, it's not your typical normal rain though. It's basically like hot acid rain that's burning up everybody's skin. And even Freddy's friends are saying that. During that, Tina ends up going in the warehouse and trying to find Freddy. Even though she doesn't know that Freddy is not there. So while during that, the body's completely gone. So Bert has an idea to go back to the warehouse, clean up the mess, and then go home and act like nothing happened. But unfortunately, something's wrong with Frank and Freddy. They're saying that they're not feeling good, they feel sick, that it's probably because of the gas they sniffed in when the tank first burst. You can tell by their skin color that they're starting to go completely white. So they end up calling the ambulance. Then we go back to the warehouse. Tina's still looking for Freddy. She ends up going to the basement, where, mind you, the tanks were at. Still looking for Freddy. She does find Freddy's hat, by the way. But then she sees the zombie. The zombie that was from the tank. It's completely dissolved. All skin. I mean, no skin at all. Just bones, but completely melted. She tries to get away. She couldn't because one of the steps to upstairs broke. So she fell through. So she locked herself up in a cabinet. The zombie's still trying to get her. Meanwhile, the gang finally ends up going to the warehouse looking for Freddy and Tina. When they hear Tina's voice screaming, they head to the basement, and then we get the first kill. The zombie ends up eating one of the gang members, and he's completely gone. So they end up running out of the basement and lock the door. Then we cut back to the ambulance arriving, checking on Frank and Freddy. As they're checking their heart rate, their pulse, and everything, they realize nothing's happening. They don't hear a heartbeat. They don't have a pulse. They don't have a breath. They can't get blood pressure. Their temperature is 70 degrees. Now, at first, they thought it was the equipment, that it wasn't working, but they realized something's up. Something's wrong. It's now coming to a realization that, it's now coming to a realization that maybe something's happening to them. So we come back to the gang as they just board the basement door. They realize, Freddy's not here. So they head back to the cemetery. But at the cemetery, it's still raining. And not only is the rain like acid rain, it's also causing everybody, all the dead bodies in the grave, to come back to life. And now they want to kill everybody. They want to eat everyone's brains. So the gang splits up. Unfortunately, one of them did not make it out of there alive. Trash. That's her name. She's like the stripper of this whole entire movie. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. But she gets devoured by the zombies, and that's pretty much the end of her. We won't see her until towards the end. Then we come back to Ernie's cemetery place, and the paramedics, are basically telling Frank and Freddy that basically you guys are dead, but you're still conscious, so we don't have no idea what that means. So, I mean, and if you have seen this movie before, maybe a lot of you already noticed at this point, you get the feeling that, oh, they're going to become one of those things. They're going to become a zombie, pretty much. So Tina and two other guys from the gang end up entering Ernie's place and trying to warn everybody, like, hey, you gotta lock up your doors, board up your windows, do whatever it takes, because those things are alive and ready. They told Bird. Bird's freaking out. He's pissed because now it created a bigger problem. The paramedics do get killed. Um, it's just like a whole roller coaster. Meanwhile, two of the other members of the gang ended up going back to the warehouse and boarded the living shit out of everything. Tina and Freddy do reunite, but she's freaking out because he looks terrible. And while they're boarding everything up in Ernie's place, they finally ask him what the hell happened to Frank and Freddy. Bert ends up telling them what happened. It's just a whole roller coaster, and it comes to like a huge climax. Basically, like another member of the gang gets killed. Bert realizes the only way you can kill them is you gotta burn them completely. But how can you burn a whole group of zombies if nothing's killing them except burn them completely? How the hell are you gonna do that? And then we get to see Trash coming back to life as a zombie, and then she goes on a tear as well. It's a whole roller coaster. But it's like towards the end, you get to see Freddy go on a rampage as well as he slowly turns into a zombie and tries to kill Tina. And I have to say, props to that actor who plays Freddy. He went from a funny, scary guy. He went from a funny kid into a scared kid into a full-blooded zombie. And I have to say, props to the makeup department as well, because it was spectacular to see all that shit. I think I gave you a lot of good backstory to this movie. I'm not going to tell you how it ends. I'm not going to tell you all that stuff because I want you guys, if you have not seen it, like I said, you should go see it, and I want you to enjoy the thrill ride. But like I said, I like how they took a concept and made it their own. The cast is phenomenal. I thought it was a great story, and it's definitely a must-see film. There's like a lot of reasons why this is like one of my favorite horror movies of all time. And talking about parodies, there is a whole franchise about this, but I refuse to watch the other movies after this because the first movie was spectacular. It was original. After that, it went downhill. Because if you've seen the whole franchise, you know what I'm talking about. They did end up making a Return of the Living Dead Part 2, and it was not as good as the first one. Not even close. Well, a lot of things. The original director did not come back, so they hired a new director. They tried to get the original writers back. That didn't happen. The producer, there were a couple other people behind the scenes who wanted to come back to do it, but when they saw the script of what part 2 was going to be like, they refused to be a part of it. The idea was that they wanted to make a parody of the first film. Have a different story, but make it exactly like the first film, but funnier. The idea was that they wanted to bring everyone from the first movie back, but playing as different characters. Unfortunately, that did not work because I think some of the cast members did not want to do it because they basically did not like the fact that the second movie was basically making fun of the first movie when the first movie was hugely successful. Some cast members did want to come back to do it, but were never contacted about it again. They were mentioned to it first time around, but then after that they were never mentioned to it again. Some cast members did come back and audition for certain roles, and they didn't get the part. So basically, out of the whole entire cast, the only two people from the first movie that came back were the actors who played Frank and Freddy. Like I said, the greatest duo in horror history, I believe. Those two were basically the only saving grace on the entire movie of part 2. The makeup in this movie was not as spot on as the first one. I think they just half-assed it because they didn't want to do all this shit, which I felt that's just kind of stupid. You realize your first movie was hugely successful, not only because of the cast, the story, but the makeup as well. And you kind of downgraded it, which is sad. Needless to say, part 2. So it's if you like to watch parodies of certain movies, like the whole scary movie franchise or epic movie or superhero movie, then this movie is for you. You should see Return of the Living Dead Part 2 only for the comedy. But I didn't think it was that funny either, to be honest. It's funny because most of the cast said they enjoyed working on the movie, but you can tell by the actors who played Freddy and Frank in the first one, when they came back to do part 2, that they were not enjoying themselves. They felt it was a ripoff. They didn't think the story was that great. So needless to say, they weren't enjoying it. They didn't want to do part 3. They were just glad that the movie was over when it was done filming. And I think they did see it. They weren't happy with it at all. Needless to say, part 2 was not hugely successful as the first one. The first one will always live in my heart as the best out of the whole entire franchise. I think there was only 5 movies in total. But I think the last 2, they lost the concept. But anyways, but yeah, I would suggest just see The Return of the Living Dead, the first movie. It's, like I said, one of my favorite horror movies of all time. I give it a 10 out of 10, a must-see. It's a really good 80s movies. I felt like the 80s had the best music and the best movies, too. So, yeah. Even though I never grew up in the 80s, I was born in the 90s. I had my parents to thank me for that because they really got me into the 80s music, and that's why I got into the whole 80s vibe. Damn, I wish I grew up in the 80s. That would have been awesome. But yeah, I would definitely say go see this movie. Great one. All right, so I just realized this is the longest I have talked in any of my podcast episodes because we're so close to hitting to the 50-minute mark. But yeah, realizing that this whole episode was just basically dedicated to Return of the Living Dead. I wanted to talk about this movie for a long time anyways, and I thought it was appropriate since we're only 3 days away from Halloween. But yeah, I mostly talked about that movie and just covered small details with Halloween Kills, how the drag queen stole Christmas, and Living Dead the musical. But yeah, this is going to be an interesting episode to hear from all of you and everything. But I hope you guys enjoy my reviews. If there is a review you would like me to do, like on a certain movie or anything like that, whether it's old or new or just plain stupid, I will do it. All you have to do is just ask me, and I will do it for you guys. But yeah, so we will go back to doing this Wednesday. Like I said, I apologize for not advertising that much, and sorry. I didn't want to post my podcast last night because I knew it was going to be last minute, but I wanted to give you guys ahead of time. That's why you guys are ready and know what I'm talking about. I didn't want you guys going this blind. But yeah. So, come see Livind Dead, the musical. It's going to be my last one as Martin Daniels. And go see The Return of the Living Dead. I'll keep saying it. One of the greatest horror movies of all time. And I work at full-time at Macy's. I told you I was going to say it again. So, I hope everyone enjoys their Thursday night. And I will see you guys next week. So, love you all. And Diane Marie rules.